To get started with a mouth call, one of the things that you want to make sure is that the open part of the mouth call, the reeds, they go forward. And the longest reed, no matter what call it is, the longest reed, and normally the cut reed, is the one that goes into the roof of your mouth. Lay it on your tongue, push it up in the roof of your mouth, and use your tongue, the middle of your tongue. If you put the tip of your tongue on that reed, when that starts to flutter, it's going to really tickle. You won't be able to stand it. So use the middle of your tongue when you push it up, and slide that forward. When it's in the roof of your mouth, slide it forward to where the edges of the frame will come up against your teeth a little bit, and that will kind of lock it in and hold it in place. Use the middle of your tongue, whether you want to put the pressures on there to get the high pitches, like say maybe even a kiki run. And then back your tongue off. That allows that top reed to flutter, because that's where your rasp is coming from, and you get your highs and your lows. Then in order to get a yelp, start off with your high pitch, drop into your low pitch, and be able to get that yelp of the hen. So you can hear every high note and every low note in each yelp. And no matter how fast you're doing it, or no matter how loud you're doing it, that front end should be there every single yelp that you do. And if you're not doing that, it's not that turkeys will always pick up on it, but I do think it makes it more realistic. And if you're hunting public ground, that can be huge. Because if they hear every Joe Blow out there blowing a call where all he's got is a bunch of rasp, and he's not having that front end carry through there, pretty soon I think that a turkey can realize, because they've got a will to survive, that that's not real. When I'm working a turkey, in my mind, I'm trying to be as real as I can possibly be, trying to convey and have that conversation with the turkey, whether it's a gobbler or a hen. I mean, if the gobbler's got hens, a lot of times I'm going to be talking to the hens. I'm going to try to get them coaxed in, because I guarantee you he's coming if you get her coming. You just got to read their body language if you can see them. And you also have to read what they're saying to you and know what they're saying to you and what you want to say back to them. I always tell everybody, if you aren't real comfortable with your calling techniques or running a call, especially a mouth call, a lot of people struggle with a mouth call. If you're not real comfortable with that, usually the softer the better. A turkey can hear you for a long ways, and if he can hear you, that's all you need to do. Do some clucking and purring, do some soft yelping, and you can't go wrong. Call is no different than maybe say a duck call or something like that. All your air, just like the hen, when the hen is calling, that air is coming from her diaphragm. And it's the same way when you're blowing a mouth call. Once you learn how to do that yelp, and even a purr and a cluck or cutting or anything like that, the softer calls, you won't notice it coming from your diaphragm quite so much. But when you get into the louder stuff, the yelping, and get into the cutting, if you watch a hen turkey, every time she cuts and every time she yelps, you'll see her tail kind of flipping every time her mouth opens up. And it's no different with us. My gut, the whole time I'm yelping, if you watch my gut, watch the hand on my gut while I start yelping or when I start cutting, you'll see my hand kind of bouncing. And that's because I'm bringing that air out of my diaphragm. And by doing that, that puts more realism and natural turkey calling, or turkey vocabulary into that call. So the whole time I'm using those muscles, I'm forcing that air to come out of my diaphragm. If you bring it from your throat, you can call turkeys. I'm not going to say you can't, but it's not as realistic as when you bring it from your diaphragm. When I go out early in the morning, one of the things that I like to do is I like to hoot at them and try to get them to gobble if I haven't been in there and haven't put a bird actually to roost. I'll slide in there pretty close to where I know, and I have scouted before, that there's been birds there, but birds around in Missouri especially will change roosting spots. So I might hoot at them. and get them to gobble like that. You may even use a crow call. Crow call sometimes can be kind of loud. I can kind of tone my owl down to where it's not so loud, because I've actually hooted loud enough at times that I've actually spooked birds. I was too close to them and spooked them off the roost. So you want to be really careful with that. You're better off do it softer, and you can always get louder if you need to be able to get a response. I try to move in to try to get within 75 to 100 yards of them right here in Missouri, because there's plenty of timber. If you can't get that close, I mean, I've set up at 300 yards from them before, because they're across a wide open cow pasture or a cornfield or something like that. So just depending on the terrain of whether you can get in that close to them. But one of the things that I like to do is I like to try to be the first hen in the morning to start yelping at them, to start that real soft little first wake up, little cluck and little soft yelping, to be able to get that gobbler's attention on me and not so much on the hens around him. Maybe she wakes up a little bit more, maybe a few minutes later. We'll always call it tree yelping when we're doing the really soft stuff, but a hen can do anything she wants to in the tree, just like she can if she's on the ground. I've had hens set up there and cut just as loud and as aggressive, and probably some of the prettiest cutting you ever heard when they're sitting up in that tree, because they're actually talking to the other birds. But if you're the very first hen to start talking, that's going to put that gobbler's attention on you and hopefully get him to fly down, maybe even a touch earlier than his hens, and get him to come to you if he believes that you're on the ground and ready to be bred at that point in time. One of the other tips would be that it all depends on where you're hunting at. I mean, if you go hunting out west for the Merriam or the Rio, or say in Mexico, especially in Mexico, they're terrible. I mean, they don't have that many predators. So if you start calling to them in the dark like you would back here in Missouri, where it's just barely starting to break light, those birds will fly down in the pitch dark. Jay Scott's the one that told me that, with Jay Scott Outdoors. When I first went with him, he said, don't call too early. And I'm like, why? He said, no, you do it like you do back home, and I guarantee you have birds in our lap. And he said, you won't even be able to see them good enough to shoot them. He said, that's just the nature of these birds. They don't have anything to worry about. Missouri's a little bit different. We have a lot of coyotes and bobcats and things that are ready to eat them. And they're not going to come down when you start doing that, not until they can actually see. I started out when I was 13 years old using mouth calls. Wasn't very good at it. Just kept working with it and got better. I prefer a mouth call, number one, because it's all hands-free. I can stick that thing in my mouth and I don't have to move in any such way. Maybe my jaw a little bit, and that's about it. But the big key is I can have my gun up to my shoulder, on my knee, and have my finger on the trigger when I'm ready to, and be able to shoot him. And a lot of times I'm still calling when I actually pull the trigger. A lot of times I'm still calling to that bird. And sometimes just to keep him calm. As long as I'm hit good, I should be in good shape. A lot of people, they talk about when we call in contests and how we use our hands and different things. Sometimes we use our hands for the rhythm part of it, which in the woods, I don't do it for the rhythm part. But we do use our hands to direct the call. And a lot of times when a bird's going to the right, I've had camera guys tell me he needs to come back to the left. Or even if I've just been hunting myself and the bird's going too far to my right and I want to get him to see the decoys, I can take my hand and I can put my hand up and I can throw the sound off to the left, maybe towards my decoys. And I've had birds automatically turn. Say they're coming in too far to my right, and I can throw that call down to that decoy and get that bird to turn and come right straight at the decoy. Sometimes they just haven't seen your decoys. You can actually, you can throw it to the left, you can throw it to the right. The big thing is making sure the gobbler doesn't catch you or see you. I've already got my gun up on my knee and I've got it right here. So now I can take my hand and throw my call to the right, or I can take my hand and throw it to the left. Any of that kind of stuff will help you. And if you need to muffle it a little bit, say you have trouble calling softly, sometimes you can just take your hand and put it right up here and throw it back at you. And by throwing it back at you, muffle it just a little bit, making it harder for that gobbler to detect exactly where you're at. A friction call, the main thing is to not get, like in the surface where you're going to be calling at, don't get anything on it, even wet. When you're using a wood striker especially, don't put your fingers on the end of the wood or on the surface of where you're going to be doing, because what that is, it's actually just run by friction. If you just look, that's all it is. It's all by friction to be able to get the notes out of there. Now then it's up to you to be able to run that peg on that call to be able to get the softer yelps, the clucks and purrs, and there's so many different things you can do. A lot of it is how you're going to hold that call in your hand. If you want to get as loud as possible and try to strike a bird, your sound is going to come out of these holes down here. So you want to hold it up in the tips of your fingers and begin to yelp on it. Cut. That's very, very loud. Now you can take your sound chamber down by muffling it, covering these holes up a little bit more, and you can actually get a whole lot softer with it. Now that's using it exactly the same way I was before, not changing anything with the pressure of my striker, okay? You can hear the difference when it's, the highs and the lows, louder and a little bit softer. So when I want to get a little bit softer, I put a smaller sound chamber to where I'm kind of muffling that call a little bit. Purrs and clucks. And like I said before, if you want to get really loud, then let all the sound come out of that call. Let that call work for you and get a little more pressure on your striker and get that high-pitched yelp and cutting coming out of there. Like one of the key things to be able to make a friction call work, a pot call type call work, is you hold the striker. I hold it like this, and I got it to where I can use my fingers a lot of times when I'm yelping. And if I want to get louder and make my strokes a little more elongated, my yelps a little more elongated, sometimes you're even moving your hand. So depending on what kind of calls you want to do, whether you want to just use your fingers, and I especially use that on the clucking or the cutting. So all I'm doing is taking that call, that striker, and I'm just giving it one sharp, abrupt little strike across that surface to be able to get that. And one of the things to remember is sometimes if you got the back of the striker pointing towards you, you're not going to get any sound. Or I've seen some guys actually use it backwards. They'll start doing that. It's not that bad, but you're not getting your high front end. See, your high front end is coming off of where the call's actually glued together. So your high pitches are out towards the edge of the call. You can actually get clear, just like a kiki run. And you're getting them high pitches off of where that surface of that call is not going to be able to vibrate so much. So you get the clear notes and you get the more high pitched off of there. And in a turkey's yelp, they start off high and they get deeper and they get raspier towards the end on the back end of the yelp. So if you're doing it backwards and you got the back of the peg towards you, the back of the striker pointed towards you, so you're actually getting the back end of the yelp before you actually get the front end of the yelp, okay? So start off towards the glued part, out towards the edge. You're getting the high front end, you're getting the deeper, raspier stuff on the very back end of the yelp. Put it all together. That's where you get your realism from, is doing things like that. And just like with the mouth call, you can put the realism into this and mix it up. Put the little pauses in it and put the cuts in it and the clucks in the right spot. So when you're calling, you can slow your yelps down, you can put pauses in it, you can speed them up. And if that gobbler gobbles, then just put a cutting into it. Same thing with the mouth call. All I'm doing at that point is I'm telling that gobbler that I got very excited when he gobbled, and it'll turn his head a different color and get him to working towards me. So what I like to do is I like to start off running my mouth call and then the blue cutter, and then I'll just bust into some cutting. And sometimes that'll just, I don't know, kind of like a shock gobble. You just, when I'm yelping on this and you've got the gobbler's ear, then all of a sudden you hit those fast and furious cuts on a box call. It just makes him shock gobble and be able to draw that gobble out of him. And then I'll a lot of times just go back and forth and try to get his curiosity up, try to draw him in the rest of the way. By doing that, I can't tell you how many times that when birds aren't gobbling, that's one time that that the birds will actually, whether they're shock gobbling or whatever, at least you know they're there, and then you can start working on them and drawing them on into you.